Welcome to this video guide for the realignment of actuator brackets on Oasis SV103 actuated sandwich valves. The tools you'll need for this process are a torque wrench capable of 7.5 Newton meters with a 4mm hex attachment, the Oasis alignment jig, Loctite 243 semi-permanent thread locker or equivalent, an Oasis handle or pliers or adjustable wrench for aligning the stem, a 3mm hex key, a 4mm hex key, and a paint pen. The first part of this process is to loosen the countersunk bolts which mount the actuator bracket to the valve. This takes a 4mm hex key. These bolts are Loctited in, so some force may be required. Also, a tip for securing or sitting the actuator upside down like this so it is accessible is to use a roll of tape. This provides a nice base to work from. After removing the 4 screws, the sandwich valve can be lifted away from the actuator assembly. We now must align the stem of the sandwich valve so that it is perpendicular to the flow of the valve. To do that, we use an Oasis handle or another tool such as a wrench or pair of pliers. What we are aiming for is for the stem to be as close as possible to being perpendicular. That will be fine. The next step is to align the actuator bracket to the actuator. For this, we must first remove the drive dog from the actuator, and we must loosen but not remove the 4 screws that are holding the bracket to the actuator. This requires a 3mm hex wrench. Loosen them sufficiently that the bracket can be wobbled like that. The next step is to insert the Oasis alignment jig into the actuator. The base of the alignment jig will install into the drive of the actuator in the same fashion that a drive dog does. The legs of the bracket will perch down over the sides of the actuator, and the 2 flats on the inner part of the bracket of the alignment jig will align with the sides of the bracket. I'll demonstrate this now. We want to install in. This should not be hard to push, it should fall into place. You can see that the legs have slid over the actuator, and because that bracket is nice and loose, we can now tell that that is a line that is sitting in the correct place. You'll know that it's sitting correctly if the alignment jig has gone all the way down so that it is completely flat on the actuator. Once this has been achieved, the next step is to tighten the 4 bolts using the 3mm hex key. After tightening, the alignment jig can be removed. It should remove very easily. If you want to double check, you can slide it back on and ensure that it slides nicely down and bottoms out on the actuator. The next step is to reinstall the drive dog. Drop it into the drive of the actuator so that the stem slot is aligned perpendicular to the actuator, so it will be in the closed position. We've already set the stem on the valve, so now we can install the valve back into the actuator. We must take care here to align the valve in the correct direction. So what we're looking for is that when looking from the side of the actuator where the ports are located for the pneumatic supply, we want to see the writing is the correct way up from that side, and the flow arrow will be pointing in that direction. So I can show that here. We have the ports on this side and the valve will be going on this way such that we can read the writing. The valve should now drop easily into the drive dog. If this is not the case, then there may be an issue with the alignment of this, and we may need to make sure this is aligned perpendicular. This one has dropped in nice and easily though. The next step is to reinstall the 4 countersunk screws. These will require Loctite. Apply Loctite to the screw and install it into its hole. Once all 4 screws have been installed and tightened by hand, they must be torqued to 7.5 Newton meters. The valve is now reassembled and ready for testing and use. It's recommended that the valve is actuated at least 3 times before use. The last step is to apply a paint marker to the screws. Valve is now complete. I will now demonstrate what happens if we have an out of spec actuator. This is a faulty actuator I have pulled from our sample bin. I've already loosened the 4 bolts so that the bracket is loose. If I install this jig, it does not slide easily all the way down. You can see the leg fouls on the side of the actuator and it cannot be pushed down. This actuator is faulty. If you have one like this, it will need to be returned so that we can return it to our supplier and issue a new actuator. That concludes the video. Obviously, if you have any questions, please contact Oasis. We're here to help and we're happy to guide you through this process. Thank you.